Hey everybody, this is Jerry P. with more U.S. Masters 2014 coverage. With me today are the people I like to call three of the four horsemen of Warhammer Apocalypse. The fourth guy didn't qualify, so he's not here. But starting with Larry, why don't you guys introduce yourself, tell us what region you're from, and what army you brought today.
All right, Larry Matola from the Northeast. I got vampires as usual.
I'm Owen, I'm from the Mid-Atlantic region, and I brought ogres.
Bullshit, he's from Wales.
Come on. I'll put it on record that I'm not Welsh, just so you know. Okay.
I'm Mike Gerald, also known as Mabrillion. I'm from the Midwest, and I'm playing Warriors.
Okay, the incredible thing is, guys, between just the three of you, not counting the other horsemen, in the last 4 years, you guys have 21 Grand Tournament victories. That's ridiculous. You know, and considering each of you are from a different region, it's pretty evident that you've dominated said regions. So let's talk about what's a key secret to achieving like such a high success ratio between, is it luck, is it painting, it's a combination of, you know, army construction, and well, basically what's the secret? How do you guys do it such frequently? We'll go reverse order this time, Mike.
Secret would definitely be under the table BJ's. I think
Yeah,
that's a fair one. No, for the Midwest, you know, we play uncomped, so I think one of the biggest things that's key for us is you got to bring balance. Your list has to be super balanced because anyone can take any random crap. Like Wapaka this year, 2,000 points. I faced 4 Froststar Phoenixes, wow. 2,000 points. And if you don't have a list that can kind of, it's got the balance to move around that, you're toast. So Midwest, you got to have a list that really incorporates a lot of different elements. You can't just spam something or go all in on something.
I think you need to, a good part of it is picking up every point you can get before you go in there. If you're looking at paint score, get the maximum paint score you can get, pick up, you know, the points for getting them listed on time, whatever, just score as many points as you can. And the other thing is to not give up at any point in the tournament. A lot of people, once you're losing, you know, they'll just throw things away, whereas if you can pull back and, you know, take a soft loss, then, you know, you can often come back from that.
Larry, how about you?
I think to touch on what Owen said, painting's big because lots of guys are going to be able to get tough lists around the comp, and it's a dice game. But painting gives you those points not everyone can get, and I feel like if you have the ability or, you know, the time to learn how to paint or at least do things right, that's a lot of points people leave on the table because they don't either care or have the inclination.
Right.
But more importantly, I think, is consistency of playing the same army. Like, at least for me, I've played Vamps as my primary army pretty much forever. So I had a couple of GT wins with other stuff, but mostly with Vampires. And it's an army that I've kept with through the books and through the editions, and I feel like you stick with an army, you know, maybe it gets boring sometimes because you want to experiment with other lists, but competitively, I think sticking with an army and learning it, the ins and outs of it, knowing the weaknesses of it, I think that's a great way to have success.
Okay, you guys touched on soft scores. So, like, how important is paint in sports? I mean, just like on soft scores in general, composition if they have it. Like, how important is that? You know, like I guess get every paint point. I mean, is that how you usually do it, Mike?
Yeah, it's exactly as you said. I mean, you got to get every point as you go into it. So, I mean, they give you a checklist that, like, before the tournament, you paint to that checklist if you have to. It's big. I mean, I used to play my Bretts back in the day. I won a couple things with that, and painted was nowhere near the Warriors. I had a 20-0 almost every game in order to have a shot at winning those events. So, I mean, now I can take a loss and still end up, you know, pretty well off.
Right. Definitely. Okay, well, how about this? How about army composition? I mean, a lot of new guys are playing on the Grand Tournament scene, especially with the emergence of the Masters. We've had tournaments here in the Mid-Atlantic that all 3 tournaments announced this year all sold out within 48 hours, which is ridiculous. You know, over 100 players now at the one that's coming up in May. How important is building your army to the composition, if there is one, or do you guys actually take units that you like? Like, I love handgunners, and I still take them. That's probably a fault of mine.
Yeah.
Larry, let's start with you, man.
Yeah, sure. I mean, generally the comp is different in each of the regions. At least that's what, you know, the sense that I'm getting. I know in the East Coast we either do ETC when we can, or like an ETC light type of environment where it's, you know, 12 dice, you know, lookout stirs, etc. So you build the toughest thing you can that you're comfortable using in those guidelines. But we have no points. You know, you don't get points for comp. It's not like a sweet comp system
Right.
But it's just, you know, a hard list, because that's what people want. Like generally, a hard checklist, and then build whatever you want, you know, within the boundaries. But I think you build the hardest thing that you're comfortable with. And there's always more than one way to, you know, to attack a tournament. I think.
Right. What about you?
Yeah, I think you definitely need to look at the tournament that you're entering, look at the considerations, you know, the paint checklist to the point for putting a black on your board. That's something you can do with any level of painting. You know, try and get some points there, but also to look at the construction of your army for that tournament. I mean, scenarios are a good one. You know, people will often bring their army to a tournament, but if the scenarios require banners or whatever, you want to build towards that form.
Right, and chasing down objectives and stuff like that, constructing the army for. And speaking of which, how important is that, Mike? Like, if there's scenarios released before the game, do you build your armies versus those scenarios? You know.
I think you definitely got to keep it in mind. Again, I mean, I pretty much have only context from Midwest. You know, again, no comp, and we have.
But that's what we're all here for.
Right, right, exactly. We play together.
Best of the best, right?
But like we play a lot of scenarios. So like we play Meeting Age, we play Blood and Glory stuff a lot. We play with Watchtower once in a while comes into play. So you have to, if you have those scenarios beforehand, you got to be able to build your list with that in mind. Like I'm not going to take an all-mounted list if there's a Watchtower scenario. You got to be able to do that. Or I'm not going to take a 4 Fortitude list if there's, you know, a couple Fortitude missions. So you got to be able to build to it. I think for the Midwest especially, like, you know, kind of speaking of the other things a little bit too, I think for us, we define what's hardest a little bit differently, or it's a little bit dependent on person. Like for example, I think other regions, or I think even a lot of people in the Midwest would say Demon Prince for Warriors is like best thing, like there's no question about it. I don't like the Demon Prince. I think in our meta, there's too many cannons, there's too much Lore of Tzeentch Gateway, there's too much stuff that can kill him. So for me, I don't look at the Demon Prince as being the hardest option. So I think it's kind of interesting that the varying metas, you may actually have differing like views in a sense of what's hardest, and so I think that can kind of be taken into consideration as well.
Right. So the newer players, you would say where their struggle is not painting up to the standard, we're getting every point, and then also not following through with objectives and scenarios and building the army for them, roughly, right?
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Larry? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it comes down to battle though in the end. Because if you lose more than a game, you're done, and that's even if you paint well and you max most of your wins anyway. So ultimately, you do need to win. But I would say, you know what, you can always learn how to win games, and that is much easier to do than learning how to paint.
Okay, well let's segue into this. How important is practice then? I know you're famous for never practicing and winning grand tournaments, and I was in our club, and this dude practices relentlessly. So, starting off from that side, how important is practice to tabletop success?
I mean, I think, well look, I used to play weekly back when I was younger, and I had the time to play at my club, like through college. But once I started working, I mean, I only play at tournaments, and that's true, but I think about it a lot. The game, honestly, I say it all the time, it's not that complicated. We kind of know what stuff's going to happen, generally, besides the dice. You know a good player should deploy stuff this way, they're going to try to gum up your Death Star here, or other things. It's not super complicated. So I think thinking about it enough and talking about it is almost as good as playing sometimes, especially when you've come from a background where you've played so much. It's been over a decade, so the game hasn't changed that much.
Owen?
Well, half of it goes back to what you were saying and being super familiar with your own list.
Right.
If you know your own list inside and out, I mean, I played Ogres for a long time before I ever won anything with them because I'd forget their stomps, or I'd forget their impact hits, or I'd forget the fear check, and you know, no amount of tokens or whatever ever seemed to do it. I had to learn it to the point where it was just habit. And I think that's half the problem. But the other is that there are a lot of builds out there that are a gimmick. You know, the first time you run into the Demon Prince now, the first time you run into a Mind Razor based army, or you know, something like that, and you need to experience that.
The matchups, knowing the matchup and how your army reacts to it, right? All right, Mike, what about you?
I'd say, you know, I think agreeing with what a lot of these guys are saying. I think when you get to a certain point, you play a lot of games, you think about it a lot, you talk about it a lot, you need practice a little bit less. I think when you are new, you probably need a little bit more practice. Like I don't practice. Like I do reps with guys at my club. Like I'll build weird things for them to play against and kind of like do that kind of stuff. So I'll just kind of goof around.
Toy with them.
Oh no, I don't mean that. I don't mean that. But you know, I'm helping them develop too.
You're like the worst.
I'm such an asshole.
All the worst.
Terrible.
Okay. All right. So I guess wrapping this up. I mean, I guess we got a couple rounds going on. What would you guys consider your trademark army? And I think we all know there is Vampires is your trademark army.
Yeah.
And on top of that, which grand tournament are you happiest with your win? Which was your best win?
Okay, that's actually, to tell you the truth, I'd go back Baltimore 2005, since that was, oh wait, is that too far back? That's the one out of the ones, I won, the first Colonial was like February or March 2005. We had a blizzard, we only had like 30 people. It was my first GT. I won that, I was never going to go to Baltimore. I didn't feel ready, I was like 18.
You played our beat Todd and beat him.
Right, I played Todd, I beat Todd, I beat Alex too, I beat Sergrim. So I won a ticket to Baltimore, so I was like, all right, I guess I have to go. I went, and I won that event. I was 5-0, and I was like, that was my first experience, basically, in 2 months. It was just 2 consecutive tournaments, and I was never going to go. But winning that ticket, I felt obligated to go.
That's true.
That was a great win. Yeah, no, it was in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
So, how about you? What's your trademark army, and which tournament are you most happy with winning?
I think these days my main army is Ogres. I've been running them fairly consistently. I still have the Smash Demons, which I run from time to time, but the Ogres for the most part. Probably my favourite win was Brawler Bash 3. I don't know when that was.
That was 3 years ago. They won on year 7, so 4 years ago.
Yeah, so that was
your first GT win.
That was my first.
I'm seeing a trend here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the first time especially, you know.
I mean, you did remark at one point that it's just getting old when so many playing tournaments.
It's too easy now.
Yeah,
right?
that is too easy.
A challenge.
And Mark, Mike, what is your I guess favorite grand tournament win, and what would you consider your trademark army?
Trademark army now is definitely Warriors.
Is that your favorite army? Just
I mean, it's what I play. Like I love the Bretts back in the day, and I just haven't picked them up since kind of putting them away. But definitely favorite win would probably be last year's Wapaka, honestly. Because for me, Wapaka, it's a tournament where everything is split into a third in terms of battle, sports, paint. So if you win overall there, it really is an overall win. I still went 5-0 last year, but in order to win, you really have to have the points.
You have to have your whole game together.
Yeah, right. So I mean, that for me was really cool.
Okay. Well, U.S. Masters, how's everyone doing, Larry?
I got a 20. Yeah, 22.
I think you're table 1 after game 1.
Yes.
How about you, Owen?
13.
13. It's going down. Mike?
I got a mighty 3.
Oh, people's champ. It's all right. It's all right.
Round 1. The submarine.
You got submarine. Submarine, maybe in the trench. Well, this has been Once Bitten 360's YouTube channel here with the 4 Horsemen from Warhammer Apocalypse. I'm Jerry P. Thanks for watching.